Week 4. Before my client begins a 54-minute swim, a 15-minute warm-up has been conducted to decrease the chances of injury during training. The warm-up will consist of dynamic and static stretches on the legs and arms. Some of these could be hamstring, calf, hip, groin, bicep, tricep, and quadricep strips. They can begin their swim. They're then to do strokes of front crawl, backstroke, butterfly, breaststroke, 10 minutes each. This can be done in whatever order, as long as there's a 10-minute per stroke. Between each stroke, the client can have a minute's rest. After they complete the swim, there is a cool down to be completed to reduce the chances of injury and DOMS. An ice bath can also be done, but is optional. It will help aid the process of recovery, but it's not needed. Some static and dynamic stretches will be needed to be done. Some of these would be hamstring, calf, hip, thigh, groin, shoulder, bicep, tricep, and quadricep. Tuesday is a rest day. Before my client begins shuttle runs, a warm-up is needed for 15 minutes. It consists of static and dynamic stretches. Some of these could be quadricep, hamstring, calf, hip, groin, thigh, shoulder, bicep, tricep. The first cone will be placed 5 meters at the starting cone. The first cone will be placed 5 meters from the starting cone, and the next 3 will be placed 5 meters apart from each other to make a total of 20 minutes. From the start to the end cone, the client must run to the cone and back, and then to the next one as hard as they can. Then have a 20-second break when all the cones have been ran to. This is then to be repeated as many times as possible in a time set, which will be half an hour. After they complete the shuttle runs, a cool down is to be completed. Some stretches to be done would be hamstring stretch, calf, hip, thigh, groin, shoulder, and bicep. Thursday is a rest day. Before my client begins running, a warm-up is to be conducted to decrease the chances of any injury during the training. The warm-up will consist of static and dynamic stretches, some of which could be hamstring, groin, shoulder, or bicep. The steady state exercise is to be done at a low intensity but without any rest, and below 80% of your maximum heart rate. This is to be done for 35 minutes. After this, a cool down is to be completed to reduce the chances reduces the chances of injury or DOMS. An ice bath can also be done, but it's optional. Some static and dynamic stretches will be needed to be done. Some of these would be hamstring, calf, hip, groin, and bicep. And Saturday will be a repetition of Monday. Week 5. Before my client starts their ladders training, a 15-minute warm-up has to be done. The warm-up will consist of static and dynamic stretches on the legs as they are the main use, but arms will also be done as they help generate speed. Some of these stretches could be hamstring, calf, hip, thigh, groin, bicep, tricep and shoulder. The exercises I have put in place improve agility, but can also be good for aerobic capacity and to also lose weight. So the ladder drill, complete each repetition through the ladder 6 times. Complete each drill with speed but precision. Some of these could be a side straddle hop, which is a quick lateral movement drill that engages your hips and adductors. Hop in and out of each box with both feet, with avoid clapping your feet. In and out, facing the side of the agility ladder you are going to touch in, and go out of each box with both feet. Repeat this drill on both sides of the ladder. Then you've got a cone drill. Each drill have 30 seconds of work, then a rest for a minute. Complete each drill 6 times. Example of a drill: lay out 7 cones and a number of both sets of outside the cone, 1 to 6. The client is doing bounce steps either side of the cone, often in the middle, and when a number is called, they run to the specific cone, run around it and return to the middle one. 15-minute cooldown has been put in place to reduce the chances of DOMS and injury. So static and dynamic stretches will be needed to be done. Some of these would be hamstring, calf, groin, shoulder and a bicep stretch. Tuesday's a rest day. However, on rest days, I expect my client to be doing stretching and foam rolling. This is to help aid the process of the recovery. However, going out for a gentle walk would be also good, just so that they're not lazing around, to keep their fitness up. Before my client starts cone tapping, 15-minute warm-up has been put in place to reduce the chances of injury. What will consist of static and dynamic stretches on the legs, as they are the main use, and for the arms, as they're used to help generate speed as well. Some of these stretches could be hamstring, quadricep, calf, hip, groin, shoulder and a bicep, as well as tricep. Go to cone drill. Quite similar to the one in the ladders and cones drill. We lay out 7 cones with a number of both sets outside of the cone. The client is going to be doing bounce steps either side of it in the middle, and when a number is called, they run to the specific cone, run around it and return back to the middle cone. This is to be done 6 times, have a minute's rest, then another 6 times. A 6-minute cooldown has been put in place to reduce the chances of injuries and DOMS. An ice bath can also be done, but it's optional. It will help aid the process, but it's not needed. Some static and dynamic stretches will be needed to be done. Some of these would be hamstring, calf, groin, shoulder, bicep and thigh. Thursday's a rest day. To swim on Friday for interval training. 15 warm-up is to be done to decrease the chances of injury during training. The warm-up will consist of static and dynamic stretches, predominantly on the legs and arms, as they will constantly be used throughout. Some of these would be hamstring, calf, quadricep, hip, thigh, groin, shoulder, bicep and tricep. The exercise will consist of doing 2 lengths of their chosen stroke at a gentle pace, then doing a length as quick as they can. The stroke is to change every 3 lengths. For example, say they did breaststroke to start off with, they do their gentle 2, and their hard one, then switch stroke, going into maybe front crawl, doing a gentle one, then a hard one, then rotate, and just keep doing that. And this exercise is to be done for an hour. After they complete the run, a 15-minute cool down is to be completed. It will help aid the process of recovery, and some static and dynamic stretches will have to be done. Hamstring stretch, calf stretch, hip stretch, thigh, groin, shoulder and bicep are some of the ones that can be done. Steady state running is what will be happening on Saturday. However, a 15-minute warm-up is to be conducted beforehand to reduce the chances of injury during training. The warm-up will consist of static and dynamic stretches on the legs and stretches on the arms as they are used as well. For some of these stretches, they target the legs, which will predominantly be used. However, the arms will be used as well, so some arm stretches have been involved as well. Some stretches are hamstring, calf, hip, thigh, groin, shoulder, bicep and tricep. So the steady state exercise will be to work at 80% of their maximum heart rate. This will be for a total of 45 minutes. However, if they wanted to step it up, they could have an option of going for below 90% of their maximum heart rate for 30 minutes. Week 6 now, the final week. The client will start off with a 5-mile run on Monday. This will have a 15-minute warm-up to be conducted beforehand to decrease the chances of injury during the training. The warm-up will consist of static and dynamic stretches, predominantly on the legs as they're the main use. However, some stretches will be used for the arms as they are partially used as well. Some of these stretches could be hamstring, calf, hip, groin, shoulder and bicep. They can then begin their 5-mile run. It is to be completed in 40 minutes as their aerobic capacity should have improved over the 5 weeks quite a bit. After they complete the run, a 15-minute cool down is to be completed to reduce the chances of injury in DOMS. An ice bath can be optional, but it's definitely recommended as this exercise is quite intense. So static and dynamic stretches will need to be done. Some of these would be hamstring, calf, hip, thigh, groin, shoulder and bicep. Tuesday is a rest day. On Wednesday we will perform fartlek training. This will be performed in the gym. Not in the gym, sorry. But outside on a running track, and to do with running at different paces throughout. My client will start with a 5-minute warm-up where he will just do stretches covering his whole body and do the same stretches he did in the previous session, as it involves the same muscle groups and movements, just in a different way. We'll then start by getting him to do a full lap of the 400-meter track as a part of the warm-up. So a steady pace will be necessary. This will then be followed by 60 seconds of flat out sprinting, followed by a 150-second jog. Then after that, back to a sprint for 45 seconds, and then a jog for 120 seconds. My client will get 5 minutes rest and repeat this 3 times. This is then to be followed by a cool down, where my client will perform static stretches, like holding their leg behind their back and calf sweeps, but holding them for longer for duration time to reduce the chances of DOMS. Thursday is a rest day. Friday will be interval training. They will have a 15-minute warm-up before to decrease chance of injury during training. The warm-up will consist of static and dynamic stretches